Okay. For the record, I never cowered it out of anything. I
Oh,
just said, would you edit?" And then you immediately jumped in and started host. That's why I was
no,
reacted like,
no, you
"What's
said
happening?"
no,
like you
no.
just
You
jumped
said
in instantly to
you
host
said
it,
you hadn't watched it, and
and I
therefore
made.
you
Oh,
weren't
I
worthy
did
of
watch it. I
hosting.
told you I watched
No,
it.
you did not.
Oh, I did too. You lie, lying sack of Greedo.
All right, all right, Lord Vader. If he's lying, will you please breathe to let us know?
He will join us or die.
I think you
Don't
need to
make me
breathe.
destroy you.
I
no.
will
Don't make
destroy
me
you.
destroy you.
May the force be with us.
But I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
The Emperor has been expecting you.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Cantina Club. This time, we're going to actually talk about Andor. We did a recap of season one. We didn't talk about it when when the first season happened. However, we are going to talk about Andor season two. We're going to try and cover it week by week. And as we've discussed on the channel before, they are releasing them in 3 episode chunks. So we have episodes one, two, and three to talk about today, and that's exactly what we're about to do. But I believe we have something that Greedo wants to share before we get into this.
Yeah, I forget what we call it when we get something new, but
Baraku,
Very
oh, very
cool.
cool. This is pretty cool.
this is pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
This is this is the AMC Darth Vader popcorn bucket, and I always have trouble finding the switch to make him breathe, but I don't know if you'll be able to hear it very good.
Yeah,
And
that's awesome.
if you open his head, it gets louder. Listen,
That's awesome.
listen for a second. He'll slow down.
Oh wow!
He held his breath for a little
I
bit.
was gonna say it sounds like he's holding his breath. Oh wow, that's actually really cool. Okay,
It is pointless to resist.
I pronounced that Veriku.
That is very cool. But
That is.
I've gotta ask you, Guido, when you got that at the movie theater, were there a bunch of Vaders going off in the theater during the movie?
There was no movie at the theater that I really wanted to see, so I just went in and got the I just went in and got the popcorn bucket. So I can't testify either way on that. But the theater was pretty desolate. It was like 3 o'clock on a 3:30 on a Friday afternoon, and but I knew the way these things work. The popcorn buckets are usually pretty popular, so
Yeah, well, I should have done
let's
the
see if
same
they
thing
have
because
one.
I went today and everything was sold out. Did not have anything. I was
What theater chain did you go to?
AMC
Oh, AMC. Oh, damn.
at freaking Disney Springs of all places. You think that if anybody has it, it's them. That's actually what I told the cashier behind the
Mm.
register. I was talking to the two guys. I was like, "You guys have nothing?" They're like, no. They're like, "Dude, we sold out of everything last night. They said it was insanity. We got wiped out by 8:30 last night. Everything was
Yeah,
gone."
it's on Marketplace and eBay.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it
That's
is.
exactly
And
where it is.
that's why they should limit. I think these purchases if people are coming in and buy. "Oh, I want 5 pocket, popcorn buckets or something
Yeah,
silly
no,
like
it's
that."
supposed to be a
That's
Yeah.
not right.
film for the people going to see the movie. Really, I mean, I'm being a hypocrite because I didn't go see the movie, but I mean, I missed out on all the Alien buckets, which were cool as
Yeah,
hell, all of them, because the people did the same thing, and the theaters also put the merch out the week before a lot of times.
that's what also
Yeah.
kills me. It's like, okay, the movie doesn't
So
start. The people
yeah,
coming to see that movie aren't going to be here till next Friday. So
yeah,
why are you putting it out now?
it's a
Yeah,
promotion, so I sort of get it, but the only people coming in and grabbing all that are people that want to flip it. Really, are people that
exactly,
are wanting to put it
exactly.
on their YouTube channel to preview it for people and stuff, which is fine. But yeah, I imagine that too. It's like I wonder what if you get in if the theater was packed and everybody's having those go off during the whole,
Yeah, that would have
especially
been hilarious.
at the scene where Lord Vader, can you hear me? And everybody turns on their popcorn
Everybody turns
at
on their
once,
popcorn bucket.
right? That would be epic. You might as
That
well.
actually would have been really
Other
cool.
times, yeah.
Leap, 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 leap.
Yeah,
So anyway,
Star Wars becomes Rocky Horror Picture Show with interactivity.
Got a bad feeling
so
about
not
this.
appearing in Endor.
Exactly. Yeah. So okay. So let's jump into our talk about Andor. I'm going to throw it first to Gundark and get your thoughts, your kind of overall thoughts.
Okay, I loved it. I've watched the first three episodes twice,
Hmm.
and I was so impressed, and I was worried. Rito sent me a message, right after the first reactions came out from all the critics. And I was looking at their reactions and they were just so spectacular. And I thought, this can't be true. And, some of them were saying, this is the best thing since the original trilogy. And I was like, that can't be, they tend to exaggerate. And they kept repeating, though, that they had seen the entire season. And they were really praising, especially the last six episodes, to say once it gets
Okay.
into the back half of the season, it's really wonderful. And so I thought, well, maybe, and then I watched it and I was amazed. I was delighted at how good it was because
Hmm.
I've been so worried because I enjoyed the first season so much and
Right.
I want this to be a top-notch show. And I feel like now, after seeing the first three episodes, if it's going to get better, as it goes, even better than that, it's going to be really wonderful. I have my hopes up for the rest of the season after seeing these episodes.
Excellent. Greedo?
Yeah, it was same thing. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. I was going to watch one episode at a time in the either morning or evening, and I ended up watching all three at the time because it was so good. And I was just thinking the whole time, it's like, you can just see it on screen, the money burning,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
burning money, burning money, burning money, because it looks so good. It looks so
Mhm.
expensive. The costumes, it's like I told someone it's like watching a costume drama, period costume drama,
Hmm.
done by experts. Like they always bring in all these people who do these amazing costumes on those kind of and cinematography. So you feel those movies never look cheap for some reason.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's where a lot of their budget and money goes and stuff. And then they get good actors, usually on the cheaper end of it or whatever. But this looks like that. It's like a period drama, political thriller, but really costume drama. And
Hmm.
the sets are expansive and huge.
Mhm.
There's only a couple of times where I even crossed my mind that this could be the volume or anything like that, and it didn't because it wasn't bothering me. It's just because I thought this is a smaller set than all the
Right.
others. The
Right.
opulence for the sets for the Mon Mothma wedding stuff were
Hmm.
just so incredible. It made you feel like, okay, this is what Star Wars billionaires live like.
Right.
And it also made you
Exactly.
think this is what real life billionaires probably live like
Hmm.
because not many people can afford even this. It looked crazy. I mean, just absolutely off the wall. And the number of extras, they just really threw everything in here. I feel like, and they gave us action at the bookends. At the beginning of the
Mhm.
episodes and at the end of the episodes, and really made it cool. I thought the action
Mhm.
was just that was great. It was just really great. My only critique remains that I feel like Cassian kind of gets the short end of the stick character wise,
Hmm.
whereas he's still reactive. He's much more proactive here, but we still don't know much about what makes him personally tick from his point of view.
Right.
Although I will say it's getting more and more. When he found out, spoilers by the way, people. I guess we're going to go into spoilers, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely
But from here on
spoilers.
out, but yeah, when he finds out that his family is in danger, the people that he still cares about are in danger, he takes decisive action immediately without waiting for
Mhm.
anybody's approval.
Yeah.
He's beginning to understand behind the smoke and mirrors. There's just people just making decisions, and they aren't perfect, and there's no one to wait for orders from really, and you have to sometimes just do it on your own because it's messed up. They're barely making it through these things. So I think that's teaching him to take more action, trust his own judgment in the moment, and do things in the moment. And that's what we're seeing. But I
Hmm.
still feel like, from a script point of view, he's almost the last main character they think about. I'd like to see more. I think when we get K2SO and some other things rolling,
Yeah.
Yeah.
we'll probably see
Yeah.
more development with Cassian.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
I like what I've seen. I like him better than I liked him in season one. I would just like more of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Understandable.
Oh, and the music
What
was
about
fantastic. Music was fantastic too. Everything about the production I thought was fantastic.
Carillion?
I hated it. Thought it was terrible.
Oh no, we're gonna have to shoot you under the table.
Yeah,
That's
you're gonna
just
have to shoot
oh
me
my
under the
It
goodness,
was
table.
boring.
It was terrible. No, I
awful.
really, really loved it. I just echo what you guys said. I was I was very impressed with the expansiveness of how it appears. Obviously, like Greedo said, it looks extremely expensive, and yeah, I kind of noticed the same thing. There were a couple of scenes where I thought, okay, they must be on the volume because you kind of got that little bit of outline where it's like, okay, they're not really at that set, it's just a
Mhm.
projection behind them. But overall, I mean, it didn't take me out of it, like you said, and I don't know, I feel like the story, even though, yeah, they took Andor and kind of sidelined him for the first, three episodes. Obviously, we're going to get more of him in the rest of it, and I think they probably sidelined him so they could get some of the other stories kind of rolling,
Going, yeah.
so that they didn't focus on him. He was just captured and off to the side. But I just thought that they did it well. That this was a great setup. These first three episodes, I thought was a great setup for what's about to happen. And without getting into too much of the nitty gritty yet, because I know we're about to get into that, I really felt. I think they did a good enough job because I felt a lot of what some of the characters were feeling, and that to me is sometimes a mark to hit, to show that it's a good show. That
Yeah.
if I couldn't care less, obviously if I couldn't care less what these people are feeling or going through, I'm like, yeah, then I'm not invested. But if I'm actually like stressed about the situation, like, oh my god, then the writers and the actors and the production team are doing a good job. So yeah,
That's a
overall, I thought it
very
was
good
a great
point.
setup for the rest of the season, and I'm really looking forward to the next batch for sure.
There's a lot of close-ups and there's a lot of establishing shots where you
Hmm.
see the characters in their environments, and then at key moments there's a lot of close-ups that are given the actors that made the cut. They made it in, and I wasn't really conscious of this, but I'm thinking about it afterwards. All of those actors deliver on those close-up moments,
Yeah.
which is
Right.
really important in a show that could almost come off as cold and almost like a beautiful documentary or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to connect, like you said, with those characters in those moments where they get to show you with their eyes what they're feeling, what they're thinking, the pressure they're under, what they're going through, the import of their decisions. And there's not a one that doesn't deliver in this show when they get those moments. It lets you know what the different factions, the different people are thinking, and what is likely to
Hmm.
happen next. And I love how it shows this process of everything in life that's important is achieved through small steps. And it still feels like we're incrementally stepping towards the feeling of the show is honestly like we're stepping towards disaster.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
the vibe
Yeah.
it gives. But the truth is, the whole war is always a disaster. The fascism that's come into play is a disaster, and you're going to need a matching disaster kind of to unseat it. So the whole thing is dark feeling, but there's subplots within subplots here, and the one character who's Mon Mothma's friend, his fate hangs in the balance in all three of these episodes, and
Hmm.
his fate is an incremental, small steps that he can
Yeah.
take, and every time they show him up close, you're just so aware this guy has no clue. He has no
Yeah.
clue
Yeah.
what he's involved in. He's not fit for this era that is
No.
coming into play now, and he's going to be one of the casualties because
Yeah.
of his unfit state. He can't see below. He's clever enough to see who's got the reins, who's got the money, who he needs to get next to. He's not clever enough to survive the process, and he shouldn't get
Right.
involved. And I thought that kind of subplot. I love the way they illustrate different types of people, how it affects people in all different strata, all different mental states, everything that's going on, and how these steps. It's like kind of like with Vader and stuff. You don't start off evil. It's like
Hmm.
evil is a lot of practical little choices that you make
Yeah.
that end up leading you down that path, and good is a lot of times the same way. And it's just
I
interesting
wanna I,
how
I
these
wanna
people
make a
make
reply.
small choices that end up deciding their fates by the end of this first three-parter, or putting them in the direction where we know where their fate's going. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to reply specifically to that and to what you were saying before about Andor. You still felt he was underdeveloped, but if you go back to the first episode, I think my favorite scene in the first episode was when he confronted that Imperial worker when he was disguised as a pilot, and he was preparing to steal that TIE fighter. And she was risking everything. And she was you could tell she's just an ordinary person. And I think my favorite line in the whole episode was she was like, I've had fun here. This was my life, this place.
Yeah.
I've got friends. And she immediately, when a friend walked in the door, she immediately, you could tell she felt friendship with that person. At the same time, she was having to protect herself from being betrayed by that person. It was a beautiful conversation. And where she asked him, is it worth it? Am I going to die? And is it worth it? And his reply to her was so moving. It seemed to me to show how much farther he's come, because it's been a year since the end of the last season,
right,
according to the show. And he seems to have developed this sense that we're all probably going to die, but yeah, it's going to be worth it. Because he told her it's little moments like this, that make it worth it.
Yeah, he showed empathy for another person, and I was wondering, is this really him, or is this his training that he's gotten? Is he telling someone what they need to hear to keep them calm so he can escape? I thought we were going to see him turn the ship on the base and blow the base to smithereens or something, and leave no clues behind. But they didn't go that ruthless. So I think we can assume that was his real personality. And you're right, that gives us a much more idealistic viewpoint, which we wonder, is that his starting point? Where is he going to end up? Is it going to be a journey towards strengthening that, or being jaded with that? Will he still believe that by the end? Or was he trying to manipulate her? But I don't think you can manipulate someone or care about manipulating them that much. I think he would have looked right past that person if he was that caring, because she said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything." When she actually looked at him, and he said, "No, look at me."
Yeah.
And so this woman could describe him, and seal his fate. But he, in that moment, he wanted to connect with her and let her know that they're trying, and that if there is a sacrifice, it won't be in vain. But I still don't think she knows what she's gotten into, though.
No,
of course,
she didn't watch the first season. But it's also
but that's your message that you said, even steps toward goodness or small incremental things. And she was just she had actually enjoyed her life there, but she was recognizing the growing evil of it and trying to rectify that by making what little steps she could. And that's just, when it started that way, I was like, I'm going to love this show. That was a great scene. It starts with a
well, I love that line that you specifically picked out about "I had fun here," because to me, that keeps the viewer from thinking of everything in just black and white terms. It's not just all the evil versus all the good. It's like, even though she's technically a part of this evil enterprise, this empire, that's her life, and she had fun. And as far as she's not the emperor, she's not Darth Vader, she's not the one up there making the decisions and making the calls, but so she lived within the context of all that, and that's her life, and she enjoyed it and had a great time and has friends, and so I thought that was a really good way that the writers put in to make sure the viewer realizes, okay, we can't just paint with broad strokes here that every single person involved in the empire is evil and every single person with the rebellion is good, and
No, I think it's also showing
real life is not like that.
The empire came in and corrupted a lot of normal people,
right,
without them even knowing. Like, they were probably told, we have a project that's going to make the galaxy a better place, and we need all your scientific skills, but you can't talk to each other. You're just going to do your individual parts. And lo and behold, what shows up? The TIE Avenger, And so people who weren't involved with designing the weapons and stuff on it or whatever are like, wait a minute, that thing's unstoppable. How is this going to make the galaxy a better place? And they're betrayed. I'm just writing a lot between the lines here, but you could see how all this could work, where it's like the Empire is going to salvage what it can for its own purposes and bend it all for its own purposes. And you think you're doing something, you're on board for something great, and then you see, this is the same old shit, it's the same old bad stuff, and it's actually worse. And I never wanted to be a part of it, and now I'm a part of it. Just like the prisoners building the Death Star, they had no idea what they were doing, and the Empire had no idea what it was doing, training those guys to be a unit, to work together to accomplish goals.
Good point.
So
exactly, that's a great point.
So there's the seed of both there's a seed of both things in there. That's why if you don't like this kind of stuff, I don't know if you're gonna like this show. You know, like you're not gonna say this is one of my favorite Star Wars shows if you don't like to watch incremental movement. You know,
Yeah.
you don't like to watch subtleties of. They cast really good actors in this, you know, and there's a reason for that because you're not going to be spoon fed every single thing. You know,
Yeah.
and
This
you
is
have to
this
watch
is
and pay attention. So
it's not a mythic adventure, like with
no.
Mando and Baby Yoda. It's a drama, like you said, a
It's a
costume
drama.
drama,
Yeah, there's not much
Yeah.
adventure in this really at all. Unless you call fighting for your life, you know, struggling to stay from being something horrible happening to you is adventure. Um, let's talk about let's move on to let's talk about real quick. I wanted to say the special effects were amazing in this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The opening sequence, I was like, oh my god, I wish I could see this in a theater. Did you do the thing? Because it was totally theatrical. When the ship got up off the ground and started doing, he couldn't control it, and then it's blasting
Yeah.
through stuff, and then the TIE fighters start chasing. I was like, this is freaking cool. You know,
Yeah,
it had
yeah,
a
I
little
love
bit of
it.
humor, like the single snowtrooper with his cannon. Like, I guess I better reload.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like- and then he's just nothing but a silhouette left after the laser burns him out.
Exactly.
All that stuff was hilarious and also compelling. It had me on the edge of my seat, and the effects. I was like, "This." I was like, I find no faults. I find no fault
Yeah,
with these
yeah.
effects. They were
Not
just
at all.
really good,
Yeah.
so I was like, I was pleased. I was like, I can see where the money went. I was scared I was not going to be able to see it, like with some of the other shows, and every bit of that was great. The only weak storyline I felt like was the Yavin 4 storyline, but I felt like they did that very intentionally to show us the state of the rebellion at that time and where it came from, and the reveal that they were on Yavin 4 at the end with the
Yeah.
temples and stuff was kind of made the whole thing worth it. And I did like all the actors and stuff involved in it. They just purposefully kept it more silhouettes, more. It didn't go into detail about, but it just showed how the miscommunication, mistrust, their lives are on the line constantly, and they don't necessarily believe the same things. They're still trying to knit together from all these different groups and stuff. People who are willing to fight but don't even know exactly what they're fighting for or who they're fighting with, and their desperation when we know that's going to become the main hidden rebel base. They think they're going to starve to death there if they don't get help or whatever.
It was brutal that they
Keystone
revealed
Cops.
that they had killed the guy, the rebel that Cassie was supposed to be
Right.
delivering that ship to.
Yes, he's like, he was on a mission. He was on a mission. He wouldn't talk to us. He was on a mission. Not supposed to talk to anyone.
Exactly.
And then they begin killing each other. That moment shocked me. They're like, arguing, and then somebody just shoots.
Yeah,
and
that
then they all
was
just
insane. Talk about immediately splitting their group and attacking each other over a disagreement. That's crazy. And the whole plan of trying to incrementally turn the TIE fighter so that the guns are
That was hilarious.
We moved it 5 centimeters this hour.
I loved it when they were arguing about their petty stuff, and Andor said, "It's not going to rain forever. You guys might want to try
Yes,
to some
get some
rain."
I
water.
love that.
Yeah.
That was great.
He's like thinking the whole time, "I'm thirsty."
These people ever gonna shut up?
He's like, I'm not part of this group, but hell, they're all gonna die of thirst before they die of hunger.
And I had some fantasy then that he was going to end up being able to unite them or something.
Right.
By the end of that, and I love he just took off.
He just took off. I'm out.
It's like, I am out of here. There's no way.
I thought that was an interesting storyline. At first, I was like, "Why are we?" But it didn't linger there. We didn't get stuck there for tons of episodes. That would have been
Yeah, that would have been bad. Yep.
But it was a great illustration of they're touching base with things going on and how in the rebellion and all that. That was cool. The storyline at the beginning, they kept throwing these planet names at us, and I didn't remember any of them, but the Wheat Planet, we'll call it the Wheat Planet, where all the cereal and stuff in the Empire comes from.
That wasn't Lethal, was it? That wasn't. Okay. It looked like Lethal to me, and I thought for a minute it was.
No, it was just one big wheat. It was the Wheat Planet.
So Star Wars, all planets have the exact same ecosystem everywhere.
Yeah.
welcome to Nebraska planet or whatever.
Yes,
But,
exactly.
but I thought that this was my favorite storyline because the Empire's coming in to do an audit of resources,
Yeah.
and we have another fantastic Imperial introduced with this guy who's leading their little group.
Right.
Picture of arrogance, and we also have tremendous moments with Cassian's girlfriend. What's her name?
Bix.
Biggs. That's right. Yeah, it's crazy that I don't remember people's names in the show, but you don't have to. We have some fantastic moments with Biggs. We also have Brasso continuing to just
Yeah.
be salt of the earth. Like this is the guy that I think represents really the everyman, along with the other farmers and stuff on this planet. And they have a situation that's mirroring real life events where the Imperials are really looking for materials, but they're also grabbing any undocumented people they find because they figure they could be criminals, they could be someone they could use, they could put in their prisons or whatever the case may be. They're just causing trouble. They're basically coming in and causing trouble. And the Imperials even know how it works. The guy explains it. He's like, yeah, the undocumented people here doing work that's vital to make this place work. We need the wheat that comes out. We need the product that comes out. So the more we harass people, the worse it is for everyone. But it all comes down to my decisions. Therefore, he's going to flex,
Right.
And I got to say, this has got to be one of the worst Imperials we've ever seen, right?
Yes.
yeah.
Oh God. The
Well,
sexual
yeah. I mean,
assault
just the
scene.
one
I
scene
was
alone,
just.
yeah.
That's
Oh,
that's
yeah.
kind of what I wanted to get to, but I didn't want to just jump to it. But there's been some controversy with people online reacting, saying this doesn't belong in a Star Wars universe at all.
It belonged in this show.
I disagree. It
I do
belongs in the
too.
show.
It
Yeah.
belongs in this show.
Okay,
It definitely
we all
does.
agree. It didn't even occur to me to say it didn't belong here.
No.
Because
Yeah.
I knew what was coming from the first scene. I just hoped, for her sake, it wouldn't go to
Yeah.
the length where this guy won, where she was powerless. Because if you want to fully illustrate what really happens, it would have been even more dire and bleak than it was by
Yeah.
far. In a way, we got to at least see this guy get what he deserved, even though it wasn't worth it, But but yeah, you see again this illustration of the Empire is a bunch of people, a bunch of haves who have manipulated their way into positions of power when they don't really know what they're doing. That doesn't mean the Empire's incompetent. Their military units somehow at their core are efficient and everything, but you have a lot of Imperials of rank that I think have bought their rank or have got it through favors or got it through nepotism or whatever the case may be. And this guy seems like a perfect example of that. Like he knows what an officer should be, and he just turns that around and does what he wants with the facade of that on the
Tries
front.
to get personal gain out of it.
Right, which is what all the Imperials are really about at the end of the day, I think, is looting and pillaging and getting everything under their thumb so they continue that in the future. And this guy is just utterly despicable. It was a great performance because he almost wanted to believe he wouldn't go through with anything like that. It's like he implied it, like, are you going to do me favors? And you're like, maybe that's as bad as he gets,
Yeah.
And but no, he was much worse.
Much worse. Yeah.
What do you guys think of that scene?
That scene was so upsetting to me when I rewatched it. I almost couldn't watch it again. But like y'all are saying, I feel like it was very important to have in there. And
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah, and it seemed. And
I think it was worthwhile. I think if you had written the show without it, I don't know that it would have been like.
It wouldn't have felt
right.
If you're going to show it, you need to show it like that. Yeah.
This show is a different beast than the rest of Star Wars. I don't think it's fair to say, in comparison to other Star Wars, sure, that wouldn't have been appropriate for or for the original trilogy or something like that. You wouldn't want to sing like that in there. But this is the everyday people and the horrors they're going through. You think that kind of thing doesn't happen to women?
Of course it happens.
In that kind of situation, that would be the first thing that would happen.
And we also have a lot of sensitivity to violence of a physical nature, like is illustrated in Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith. They really push the boundaries on that. But when it comes to violence or sex or anything, we tolerate, as Americans, we tolerate violence better than we do sexual content.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you combine the two, of course, it's going to trigger a lot of people, or people are going to get upset. But really, what's the difference between showing what can happen to a woman in a war situation and in Clone Wars when the guy climbs out of the burning tank and they just gun him down,
Yeah.
on the ground instead of helping him. What I mean? They're all atrocities,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I
that
think.
that just it just made it more meaningful to me what they were fighting against
Yeah.
and what they needed to be united against. And the fact that she was in the situation, the way they filmed it made it look dire for her, but
Very much
she
so.
was able to recover and get out. And I was afraid of the torture that she had been through in the previous season, that would have damaged her where she couldn't deal with that. But she's got an inner core of strength, that pulled her through that without having to have her other friends come in, and
Right.
rescue
rescue her.
her.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do. I do think there's going to be consequences from this going forward for her, though,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
that we haven't seen yet.
Yeah, I think so.
That stem from the torture, and nobody can go through.
Yeah.
This is
No,
too realistic a show.
Completely
There's
unscathed.
got to be,
Mhm.
there's got to be consequences. It can't just make you this perfect person, strong, able to
Sure.
handle anything. And Cassian wasn't there either time for her.
Mm.
Yeah.
He was late. Yeah, he was late
Yeah,
both
he was
times
late both times.
because
Yeah.
he was doing his own stuff.
Right.
So, also, do you guys think they're actually married, or was that just she was just calling him her husband?
No,
was just
I
calling
think she
him
was
her
just
husband.
calling him
Okay.
that
Yeah.
because I think she was already sensing where this was gonna go,
Yeah.
and that's why she was. Oh yeah, my husband.
I've got a
Yeah,
husband.
she already could feel that he was starting to hit on her.
I would have thought Brasso would have been enough to put anybody off. It's like Brasso's this
Right.
like solid chunk of granite of a dude shows up and like, everything okay here? Oh yeah, everything's fine.
Yeah,
We gotta be
we're good.
fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so we all agree that was a very effective scene and important. And I think the importance is gonna play out even more as we go forward. Thank God that guy's freaking dead. They told us he was
Yeah.
dead. I thought he was just unconscious. It's like
I did too. I
he's
thought
dead.
he
It's
was
like
unconscious.
I was
Yep,
like,
he's dead.
if I'd been doing a reaction video, I would have cheered right then. But then we have this action scene with Cassian coming back to the planet and trying to. Brasso's surrounded by Imperials because he went to get the other guy in their group, their 4-man group, 4-person group, and Brasso does this incredibly selfless thing where he gets angry at the farmer that he's trying to protect in front of the Imperials to make it look so that they'll think this guy's on the side of the Imperials and not protecting the undocumented rebels like he has been doing. And I thought that was extremely moving and noble moment. And for all the lack of clarity and the rebellion and the infighting and the pettiness, this is what rebellion stems from: is from people sacrificing for other people.
Yeah.
And for people and
For the greater good.
the unfairness of this just piling on until people can't take it anymore. And then of course Brasso uses the opportunity to run when Cassian attacks. Awesome action sequence where Cassian doesn't really know how to use these. I've been in the Battlefront before, the Star Wars game. I've done the same exact thing. You like overkill with these missiles and people on the ground and just hoping you hit something. And I also wanted to note at this point we get like the most emotional scene. I think there's a couple emotional scenes, but this might be the most emotional. It was for me, was when Cassian finds Brasso and he's dead already.
Yeah.
Hit by fire, which is unbelievable. But they did show one stormtrooper actually, aiming really hard. And it's like, you hate this guy, the one stormtrooper who knows how to
That
aim.
knows how to aim.
Yeah. And I got pretty upset by the end of that episode by that. When he went back to the ship alone, this happens in all kinds of action movies, adventure movies, where they come back and they say, so and so, nope. But for me, this really affected me for some reason. Even though I barely noticed Brasso in the first season, I noticed him though, and he grew on me, and I felt like he was an important character. And to lose him here is kind of like losing a foothold on normalcy, on reality, on the person that could tell you everything's going to be okay and you'd believe
Right.
them.
That's a good point.
And the guy that everybody was looking to for strength and for steadiness. And he's also the guy that steadied Cassian every time he encountered issues or came back home or when his mom was dead. This is the guy that's like been the rock for everyone. And I really felt it when he grabbed him by the head and kissed him.
Yeah.
I found it pretty upsetting. So what did you guys think about all of that?
the moment when they're leaving too in the TIE fighter and you see each of their faces and
Yeah,
they're
that was
just
really well
so
done.
Yeah.
and I like the intercutting between that and Mon Mothma just going crazy drunk at that wedding because she knows that Tay is being killed, at that moment. It was really
Right.
good cutting between those scenes because you're seeing the sacrifices of each of these groups of people that's ultimately going to bring them together. And
Yes.
just the pain of it, the anguish on their faces, and I liked how even when Mon Mothma's dancing, they get at Genevieve O'Reilly's face so often in that, and it just, God, it breaks
Yeah.
your heart when
It,
you
it really
see.
does. That's kind of what I
And
was
she's
alluding
so
to
good.
earlier
She is
when
so
I
good.
said that, the emotional aspect of the way this show has worked. I felt that.
Yeah.
Even before those final scenes when she starts getting drunk and Tay's off about to be killed or whatever, even during the wedding scenes when she's just I felt the walls closing in on her,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I just felt that claustrophobia. It's like,
It's
how in the
desperation.
world do you get out of this?
Yeah.
There's no way to get out of this. You're doomed, at this point.
The only
And
thing that's going well for her is the deception they did in the first season, where her foundation saved their family
right.
from exposure. And that seems unimportant now because you're getting the
Hmm.
consequences of everything you
Mhm.
did to avoid
Yeah,
that.
that's
And
very
nothing's
true.
going well. Like, she's not hearing something she wants to hear from Luthen. She's not hearing something she wants to hear from her husband. She's not hearing anything she wants to hear from her daughter. She's not hearing
Yeah.
anything from her old friend who's about to be killed. It's like, yeah, you're right. It's closing in on her, and she's so fantastic. This
Oh
Yeah.
actress.
yeah.
Uh,
Fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah.
and I feel like everyone around her, that whole support, that whole cast is like a home run for
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
that storyline.
Since you're on that storyline, let me say something about the scene where she talks to her daughter right before the marriage occurs, because that scene really stuck out to me with the performances of the two actresses together and in its role in Mon Mothma's overall story arc. It's
Hmm.
almost like it's her last ditch attempt at redeeming herself for having sold her child.
Hmm.
And what really broke my heart is that you can see that it's too late.
Yeah.
It's, you can see before she even does it. And you see on the daughter's face that there are moments when the daughter's like, what's happening? What are you saying? And then the suspicion and the hatred of her mother suddenly comes back, like you've done this a million times, you pretended to be interested in me or whatever, and you never were really there. And so I just leave me alone. I'm going to go through with this. It just looked like a jillion painful family dynamics on display there, like very real families go through, and how children and parents often break apart because of, like you were talking about, incremental steps, Rita, because of the incremental things that go on, where slowly Mon Mothma's made decisions that slowly that have cost her child. It's not just the decision to sell her in marriage to a gangster, but it was already going that direction. You could tell from before the first season began, because the child and the husband was angry at her. You're always gone. You're always going to the Senate. This thing means more to you than, and she's not paying attention to what's happening to them until it hits the moment where she has to sell her child. And then she thinks, well, maybe I have this final second to pull back, and the child, is too late for the child because the child doesn't buy it. You've pulled that on her far too often. And so I thought it was just a wonderful moment between two actresses that really embodied a painful relationship in the show that added to Mon Mothma's overall story arc. And now I'm wondering, where the heck is this going to go for her? She
Yeah.
made her own bed. She got a lie in it, but I feel so sorry for her. And she did it
Yeah.
she
I
did it
just
to try to achieve a greater good,
Yeah, well,
and
yeah, and I have a feeling. I mean, seeing what we've seen so far with the characters, and obviously we know, where Mon Mothma's story goes. That obviously this is going to end up in a big split with her family. I really have a feeling that her father and her daughter are going to be on one
I
side.
think there's more to
She's
her
going to be on the
husband than
other.
meets the eye.
You
I
think
I
so?
did
You think they're
too. He
setting us
was
up for
he
that?
was looking weird. Yeah,
Hmm.
know,
Okay,
yeah,
that
yeah,
would be interesting. That would be interesting if
just my
they had
opinion.
him, like you said, be more than what meets the eye. Yeah,
Well, that's part of the Empire's MO is to get spies everywhere, to turn people
yeah,
friendly
yeah.
people
True.
friends. And also, I'm going to try to say this quickly because it's a complicated concept, but I got the feeling from the first season and from this also that the daughter is buying into this.
Yeah.
That
Mm-hmm.
she
She
is
really
like
seems to
that
be. Yeah.
she's had such a weird upbringing that she doesn't believe in anything, and so when they bring back this movement of
She's turned to
traditional
she
values,
turned to a conservative traditional values
right?
movement, just like all the little girls around her because
It's
they've been failed by their
taking away
families.
her
Mm-hmm.
rights, but it's giving her something a framework to believe in,
Yeah.
and it seems correct, more correct than what she's been exposed to, that she can decipher from what she's been exposed to from her family and everything. And I think this is touching on a lot that's been going on in the last 10 years in the world with divisiveness of political nature, of beliefs, of fundamentalism, of progressivism, of all this stuff, dividing families, dividing people
Hmm.
in our
Mm-hmm.
world, and that's the echo I felt there was like, um, is what Martha's looking for, an echo of herself and her daughter, of someone who's more forward thinking and realizing the trap she's about to go into, where the daughter is like, you arranged this and I wanted it, and now you're trying to spoil it by
Yeah.
implying there's something wrong with me by going through with it. You're
Yeah.
to spoil it. It's like, and so they're just on completely different pages, and so yeah, it's going to be one of those weird things where it's like, where their loyalty is going to lie, because it doesn't seem to be a lot of family cohesion, and when that pressure is applied tremendously, who's going to crack in which direction,
Right.
is going to be interesting. But I do think there was some implications there. They didn't heavy hand it, which was great. I don't think there's any need to,
Yeah.
but it showed again, there's some realism really seeping into this version of Star Wars that you're either
Yeah.
going to be a fan of, or you're going to find it distasteful, probably. But
Okay.
I mean, look at the setting. That girl reminded me of Carrie Fisher so much in that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was just like freaking out when she was in that dress and stuff. I was thinking, God, she could play Princess Leia. I mean, she
Mm-hmm.
looks so much like young Leia, and or a little younger than what we would have thought. Although Carrie
Right.
was young, but
Yeah.
that was another thing that kind of freaked me out about the whole thing, was just all that imagery mixed together. But the beauty of everything, all the surroundings and stuff, it's like you got to watch this just to see it, even if you don't
Mm-hmm.
totally get or connect with what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's well
Exactly.
worth watching. It's not a waste of time for sure. So
So one thing I want to bring up too before we get too far into the wrap up or whatever, Deidre and Cyril.
I want to talk
yeah,
about that one.
how can we bypass
Can
that?
I talk about that one first? Because
Absolutely.
that
No,
was my
no.
favorite.
I'm
That
in
was
control.
crazy.
I can actually do
Yeah.
that real quick.
That was my favorite story arc. And I was shocked. I had no idea that they were actually going to be living together. Like when they went to her apartment and he was there, and I'm like, what
Yeah.
what's
I'm like,
going on?
what in the
And
world?
I turned to my husband and I said, well, what happened? At least he hadn't introduced her to his mother. And they were getting ready
That's
for like
exactly what happened.
cocktails. I thought they were going to have an imperial come visit. I
I
was so
did too. Yeah.
stupid. And
Yeah.
she's there, and I about fell off my couch. It was like, holy cow, where's this going to go?
Yeah, that was great. I was thinking I would watch a whole show of these
Yeah.
Oh, I
characters.
know. Yeah. And the whole scene where he gets up and just goes and lays down on the
That
bed.
was
He
hilarious.
wilts. His body language,
Yeah,
he
he's
was
just
just wilted like a
yeah.
dead plant. But I want to say something else about that scene from the beginning of it. I was also impressed by how it picked up on a weird, and again, the family dynamic thing. The music,
Hmm.
when they were getting ready, they were cooking and choosing their clothes and everything. The music was like old 1960s.
Yeah, yeah.
It made me think of Divorce American style, that old 60s movie
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
where
yeah,
you
yeah.
got the couples that are all in these perfect, pristine homes.
They sleep in separate beds and stuff.
Yeah, yes, and they have these big cocktail parties where they look like they are they're the ultimate happy couple,
Picture
and all that.
perfect couple.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they're
Hmm.
choosing their clothes in their separate closets and all that. It was exactly like stuff from that. And then the mother-in-law, it was like, holy cow. Okay, now let me ask you this. Do you feel any more for Cyril now? Because Greedo last time said he felt nothing for Cyril in the
Yeah,
first
he had
season.
quite a rant about
And
Cyril.
I felt sorry for Cyril, and I feel
You're
even
gonna eat
more
those
sorry for him
words.
now.
You're gonna eat those words. I'm telling you, these people are monsters. Even monsters can be relatable, can have a relatable side.
Yes,
His
yeah.
mother's a monster of a kind. He's a monster of another kind, and Deidre's a monster of another kind. And
The monster of ambition.
And we're in 1984 here, Orwell.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Mhm.
there's no telling when Cheryl's going to come home and say, hon, I may have said something at work today. What did you do? You know, and he didn't bow low enough to the Emperor statue or something, and throws their family under suspicion, and she'll cut him loose. I'm telling you that they're monsters, and yeah, we can. I think we were given this to realize that monsters are human as well, but you can't forget what she did, what he did.
Yeah.
No, hold on.
There's a reason they're together.
Okay, hold on.
But it's not
There's
good.
difference between what they did. I mean, the horrible torture that she inflicted on those characters, we haven't seen him do anything like that. He went to
But he's
destroy
living
what
with the
he
woman
thought.
who did. He's living with the woman who did.
He didn't know she did that, and
I guarantee he knows.
and he thought he was destroying a criminal. He thought he was going after. He was a good company man, and he was going to destroy the criminal. He's not an imperial.
He knew
He's a
about where the
company
criminal
man.
was, and she wasn't giving up. That makes her an accessory. She's every bit as complicit in a criminal in their view. They don't have the distinctions like that. There's no due process. There's no represent yourself. There's no nothing.
I know, but what I'm trying to say, what I think you're not
penalties.
seeing is that he's not an imperial. He's a company person.
He wants to be
There's
one.
a difference between the two, and I think that might be critical. I'm wondering if they might actually have him do something
Okay, all right.
against her. If they explode against
I
each
see your
other,
point.
you know.
But just switch the genders for a second. Now, what do you think? That's the male is the dominant and the female is that's his wife or whatever. They're gender swapped. I mean, he is a woman.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about who's dominant.
He's not the dominant.
No, listen to me for a second. Shut up and listen.
All right.
But hold your snout. I'm talking about them having two different core personalities and motivations.
Mm-hmm.
She is an imperial, and she is devoted to that. She
wants to promote herself.
Yes,
He wants to
within
promote
that
the
cause. He is more. He's driven by a mother that has disapproved of him his entire life, that has made him hypersensitive to his own ego, and he's used the company as a way to, and he's really invested in it, believes in it, you know, and he got with that other officer in the first season who really believed, you know, we're hunting down a criminal, you know, the two of them, and they were little nothings. And whenever the company tried to just cover it over, he was horrified by that. And then he paid the price for the company covering it over, because when it was found out, he was taken down along with his superior. You know, I think he just has a totally different mindset than
he's
the
obsessed with Deidre, though, and there's a reason for that. He gravitates towards the wrong thing every single time.
Yes,
it's because
then that is a character flaw.
Yeah,
and not be fixed, and he's not interested in fixing himself. He's interested in whatever attracts him that he can glom onto, which is Deidre right now.
Yeah.
And she is evil. I mean, she's a monster. She may have her decency somewhere in her, but this explained a lot about her this episode, that she is an orphan.
Yeah.
Grew up with no compassion, nothing, probably just being trying to get the most out of the situation. You know,
her entire life has been the imperial system.
Right.
Yeah, she used that as an opportunity to brag about the efficiency of the empire. I grew up in an imperial Kinderblock, and it was great. We had everything we needed, you know. Everything was provided.
That's because she was a dominant type. She was on top in that environment. She wasn't on the bottom being bullied, killed, you know, whatever, having her stuff taken from her, because she's strong. She somehow has a strength in her. Cyril would have been the miserable, you know, who would have had a miserable experience, and he had a miserable experience anyway. But I get what you're saying. There's, you know, and the actors do a great job of, you're with them. I could watch a show about these evil people. We watch shows about The Sopranos, you know, over and over again, shows about evil people advancing in the world because they're charismatic and they're well written and well acted and all that. I get it, but I have no sympathy for the guy. It'd be very interesting if he goes the way you say he's going to, because I think atrocities are going to be hit on in this series. They've implied it with the Gormans and all that. And so I guess we're going to find out. But to me, this guy hasn't blinked when atrocities have been put in front of him. He's gone, okay, but how does that work for me?
Yeah.
He's failed every moral test that's been put in front of him, and willingly so. Whereas other characters have gone the other way. And so I think it's showing you, he's not totally horrible, but it shows you how people slide due to character weakness
Yep.
to the
Yeah.
easiest path, and towards the
Yeah.
dominant, towards strength. They go towards strength and security. And
Which
he
she
also,
asserted over him at the end of that.
right, he's also got a streak of ambition. That's why he shows up with his buttons polished,
Mhm.
over
Yeah.
tries, and people go, "Why are you trying so hard?"
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
they don't get it. He still believes that maybe someone will see something in him. So
Yeah.
I don't think he'd ever betray this woman. I think, she could tell him to do anything and he'd do it because that's what he needs out of life is a person just like her. And I think that's why she's got him. I think that's what, I don't think she needs anything from him except she needs a golem, every dark lord needs a golem or whatever. So,
That's
Well,
true.
we'll see. We'll see. I can see your argument too. So I guess
yeah.
we'll just
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
see what they decide.
It could go a lot of different. That's what's cool about it, and it will be either way. It will be kind of heartbreaking. Also, real quick before we go, what do you guys think of Krennic?
Yeah, we need to look
Oh,
about that.
Krennic was awesome. I love Krennic. He was a highlight for me.
Was he like
He is
he was like
such
a
one of the
substitute teacher from hell?
right. I mean, he's such a great. I mean, I don't know the way he portrays to me the stereotypical imperial officer is just
Yeah.
perfect. I mean, I think he's done such a great job at it, and I loved the whole scene where he's now got his group that he handpicked together,
hmm
and then just the way he talked about, we're very interested in this, and this is why, and he has the representatives talking about it. Was I don't know, the whole thing was great. I just
The
loved it.
school film. It's like we're gonna watch a film in class today.
Literally, that was when that started playing. I was like,
Yeah.
"This is perfect. This is exactly how this would happen." I was like,
I also,
What I
go ahead.
loved about that scene was Dedra and her boss,
yeah,
played by Anton Lesser, kind of
hmm
side eyeing each other across the table as the film was going, and then they meet afterwards, and she's like, "I don't want to be a
I
part
don't
of this project."
anything to do with this. Yeah,
Yeah.
And he knows though there's something bigger,
yeah.
behind this, and he's like,
That's why he's telling her just
he is a
relax, calm
dangerous
down.
person.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so he tells her, just do what he tells you to do, because there's
hmm
something else going on here.
I,
Exactly.
I also I also got the feeling that Krennic. The flaw of a lot of the Imperials, a lot of people in power, is that you pick people under you who are powerful, but can't ever be as powerful as you.
hmm
They can't ever be quite as competent as you. In other words, you got to just pick people who aren't as capable as you are. Otherwise, they're going to take your job.
Yeah.
So I feel like he recruited people who were kind of from, except for that one guy, who was the leader of the ISB. I think he picked a bunch of people that he knew would infight, he knew would keep themselves off balance, but also have the resources to accomplish what he wants by putting pressure on them. So,
hmm
because he was smirking hard at them a
Yeah,
bunch
yeah,
of
yeah.
times, like when they would fight or when they would have dumb ideas, he was like, "I expected this." Whatever.
right.
So it's a fine line. That's why the Empire fails a lot. I feel like is because they're thinking too much about their own insecurity instead of promoting people with merit
hmm
in all positions or whatever. Then you get guys like all of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Are
All
we
of them.
blind?
All of them.
You get people like that in the position of the security of your secret base. But yeah, so I found that whole thing fascinating, and just Krennic. It was good seeing him. I thought they did a good job with either the effects or makeup to make him look a little younger.
hmm
And he wasn't the monster I expected either. So that was interesting. That this guy, he's holding back something,
hmm
still, and so the whole thing. I want to see more of that. I hope they revisit that. I'm sure they will, but
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so do we want to do a rating,
yeah,
or I say let's do it in the 3 episode
yeah.
chunks, okay, as opposed to
Mhm.
episode 1, 2, 3. Let's do episode 1, 2, and 3 as a rating. I'll go first, and I will say that this 1, 2, and 3 I would give it an 8 for episodes 1, 2, and 3 overall.
I'm gonna give it a 9.
Yay, I'll give it a 9 too.
Nice, wow,
Whoa, we don't have to shoot or
woohoo!
mute Greedo.
That's right. We
Yay.
don't have to shoot or mute Greedo this week.
Now, when you think about it, it's probably at most 2.5 hours. It was everything was a
Mhm.
good length.
It was pretty cool. Yeah, the first episode was
2 hours and
52
15 minutes.
minutes. The last one was yeah, like 55 minutes, and the second episode I think was like 48 minutes. So
Oh, so
it was pushing
but
3 hours.
but the
Yeah.
credits take up a whole lot of time in
No,
that.
they do. They no, that's actually a
So
great
it's
point. Yeah,
probably
there's
more
like
like
7-8 minutes of credits on
it's probably
those.
like
Yeah,
2 hours and
yeah,
15
two and a
minutes.
half, 240. Yep.
Yeah, and I don't know. I felt like they hit so many things perfectly. It's still not for everyone. Like I said when we looked back at season one that I was hoping for bigger, more adventure, more action.
Right.
But that's just because those things work, you know. And it's like,
Yeah.
but I'd also rather have the restraint that they're showing here and have it all make sense rather than
Yeah.
us sitting here talking about how did Cassian fit
Yeah.
little girl under his overcoat, you know, and nobody noticed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How did Cassian get stabbed by Darth Vader through the heart, and then 2 episodes later he's fine? You know,
Exactly.
I'd rather be talking about what we're talking about than that stuff. And it's such a relief. It's such a relief
Yeah, it
not
is.
to have
Yeah.
my viewership interrupted by those kind of things. You know, that
I
destroy
agree.
my suspense of disbelief. It looks brilliant. I would never, as an executive or anything, approve of $600 million budget for a show, but I didn't have to, and I didn't have anything to do with it, and it looks great, so I'm going to enjoy it.
The Emperor does not share your optimistic appraisal of the situation.
And I think if people watch this, if people get onto this, I just think it's onward and upward for the people involved. Like Tony Gilroy, this
I
guy.
hope so.
As long as people aren't intimidated by how much money he spent or anything, this guy should, he should be like reaching his prime as far as some offers and things. And
Right.
anyway, there's a lot there to discuss about Disney and Star Wars and all of that. But he has implied in interviews that I hope this opens the door for other genres in Star Wars. And I gotta say, yeah, the thing about Star Wars is we've always said there's no hard and fast rules. It is do it well. Just
Right.
do it well. If you're
Just
going
do
to put
it
the
well.
Star Wars name on it, we want quality of everything involved. But it doesn't mean you can't do something. It's just don't just throw it out there expecting us like the merchandise. The merchandising is another thing. Look behind Gundark there. We buy into all the merchandising. No matter what it is,
Yeah, exactly.
you can put anything out. We're going to consider it, but you can't do that. You can't do that with the content, right?
Yeah,
Keep us coming back for the merchandise. So,
exactly.
so just make the content good. It can be all kinds of stuff.
Stretch out with your feelings.
And
Absolutely.
write us
Yeah, I agree.
good stories. Spend just enough money on it. I wouldn't spend $603 million again. But even all the shows we complain about the effects and the volume, if those shows had been written brilliantly and edited brilliantly, we wouldn't have complained
be complaining.
once.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Agreed.
we might say, it looked a little cheap, but that's it.
Yeah.
Watching it over and over, I don't care. I don't really care about that stuff. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, it's just got to be
Yeah.
good enough. But
Yeah,
anyway,
agreed. All right. So, yeah, that's our rating and our review of episodes 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3 of Andor season 2. We look forward to being back next week and for episodes 4, 5, and 6. I'm really, really excited to see it now that it's kicked off with some 3 strong episodes. So let us know what you think down in the comments. Thanks for liking, subscribing, supporting the channel, and all that good stuff. And we'll see you next time, guys. Thanks.
Everything's under control. Situation normal.